Yeah, it has been. Okay, I just got recording done. Let me turn. What else do I need to do? Okay, I don't need to do anything else yet. So it's been bumpy for you in Mandeville?
Yep.
It's a lot going on. And I don't know if y'all have had a chance. I didn't get stuff sent out till this morning, in the morning. I just couldn't get to sleep early, so I thought I'm just going to put this thing together. I realized I hadn't done it. And I just started pulling from a lot of the regular suspects that I read, on Facebook. And because I haven't had a chance to read a lot. My aunt that fell, she's had her back out all week, so I had to take her to the chiropractor today at 88. And but it's things like that that's happening to people, in the physical. It's hitting our structures and everything. But it's like there's just so much happening that's it's almost like whatever has been in our life that's not meant to be there is just circumstances are making it shift and fall away. And it's the Pluto and Capricorn. I mean, again, 2.5 more months of this, with the Uranus stuff, with the Jupiter stuff, with, there's just so much that happens. And all that to be an eclipse window when things usually leave anyway. And one of the things that was really interesting when I started reading, I didn't read that stuff until I actually sent it out. I sent things, to get y'all some stuff to read of people I trust, but I had not read the stuff yet, and I don't like to do that. I usually like to read it first. But it was funny, though, because when I read it after the fact, I was like, hold it, I just put that in what I wrote in the email to everybody. So, I mean, if we're conscious about this stuff and we're, paying attention and we're reading people regularly, I mean, everybody's on the same wavelength. I mean, it really is, again, about frequency. If you are, surrounding yourself with people and places and things, and if you're reading stuff, that your soul is drawn to, I mean, we really are all coming together on frequency matches. And so I think for a lot of people that don't understand that, these eclipses specifically can be shocking, just from the simple standpoint that if people are not acting consciously in their own awareness, that I'm sure we've all had moments where something's happened in our lives where it came out of left field, and you're like, oh my God, where'd that come from? And yet that's the specific thing that really shifted your reality. It shifted your circumstances. It shifted the way you approached life. It may have shifted the way you changed the family dynamic. I mean, Lord knows I've had the eclipses of January took me out of the nightclub and brought me back to my mom, who needed me with Parkinson's. I mean, talk about perfect timing. And if you can see the timing and you just relax into it and allow these things to happen, that's a good thing. But so many people go into a reaction, or they go into this place where they're like, oh, no, I can't change. But, I mean, the only thing constant is change. And the eclipse times are really huge points of change. And this one is really a very critical time because it is in Pisces. And Pisces is the end of the zodiac. It is Pisces is everything spiritual. Everything. Oh, I guess I better turn the tones off and stuff. Hold on. Okay, tones are off. Let me go ahead and mute everybody. Is there anything anybody else wants to share before I go into the muted part? Okay. Okay. So, all right, so where was I with that? Oh, okay. So this eclipse series is in Pisces, and it's, again, the end of the zodiac, and it's kind of like, to me, when I think of Pisces, it's very watery. It's oceanic presence. it is more or less that place of death. It's the place where so many times, if we don't know where we are, that something will happen and it just kind of pulls the rug out from under us. It doesn't have to be a bad thing, but there's a lot of endings. That's one thing I did remember reading. And eclipses always mean usually a lot of endings. It's relationship endings, but it's also jobs. It's, family dynamics. People can move a lot. It's kind of like taking the earth and shaking it up like one of those little snowflake balls, and everything gets shook up and everybody's floating around the atmosphere. And when it settles down, so many times we're settled in a different place because we just don't know where we're going. And I mean, sometimes that's the way the universe comes to us, and those things are written in our charts, believe it or not. For people that are really good with astrology, they can tell you because of a certain configuration. Yeah, a lot of it depends on where the moon's nodes are, because the nodes, especially the north node, but the north node is where you're going with regards to your emotional expression, and the south node is all the gifts that you came in with. And so, we want to work with both of those, but the astrologers were talking about this particular eclipse series is heavily aspecting the North Node in Aries, and it's at the end of Aries, and it actually changes signs, I think, at the beginning of next year in January. So I've had that in my Aries sun for the last year and a half, and so that's been slowly, supposedly bringing in my future, and yet when I've looked at it, when I look at my own life and think, God, what's really changed? The structures are all still here. The people are pretty much the same. I mean, I've had a death or two, with, either older friends or whatever, but there's not been really that much death with family yet. So I wouldn't be shocked if, we have it again in the next 6 months, because the eclipses work over 6-month time periods. So, and they also talk about the Saturn and Neptune stuff that's actually changing for, I think, January or through March of 2025. So the point is, this next 6 months really is opening us up to our highest potentiality as far as whatever it is we came here to do. And I know it's so funny when I say things like that. I'm like, God, Jude was telling me this when I first started with her back in 2006 at the workshops and everything. And yet it's always true. It's never not true. And it's just that where you're at in that particular moment of time, we all go through a shift. It's perception of reality. Something will fall away that may have been a rigidification of what we thought, was something important in our lives. And yet when something does just, slowly and lightly fall away, with our blessing, hopefully, it does allow us to move into a new space that is hopefully lighter, it's hopefully more loving, it's hopefully more thoughtful and heartfelt expression. And again, I mean, everyone is in a different space. I mean, I can't really emphasize that enough. I mean, that's one of the things Spirit really takes me back to. Anytime I observe something out there in the world, I get reminded that there's 8 billion unique life expressions. And again, it depends on where you are on the planet as to how that plays out with, the genetic inheritance individually, the group collective inheritance where you are in your town, your city, your state, your country, whoever that looks like. And so imagine that we're all going through these huge changes, and we are. That's what's happening. Again, it's like the earth is being shaken to its core, and that may end up with some seismic events. I mean, we've been hearing about, the different volcanoes being activated at different places. It wouldn't surprise me if there can be some earthquake things happening. Just, And again, these moon cycles affect the emotional body of us individually, but it also affects the core of Earth, the core of the planet, and even the solar system, the universe, that we're in. To an extent. Imagine that the universe is a nice, quiet place, and there's something that happens and shakes on a planet, and imagine that those energy waves from like an earthquake on Earth would ripple out through the cosmos. What would that look like? Do other planets, do that? There's so much we just don't know, but we can certainly look at things as they affect us here. And sometimes, if you're going through specific shifts with relationships, and a lot of times I think people like on this call, we're probably observing it in our family and friends more than we're actually going through the shock waves of relationship shifts. Unless, of course, there's a place where we're stuck and we haven't, either chosen to release somebody that keeps us in bad habituated patterning, or in some, the karmic inheritance that we've yet to get the lesson of. And that's one of the things. I do this every session we go into. Spirit does lead me to go in and assist us all in clearing out the karmic crap. And so many people just don't think to sit and go into meditation and just to go be with themselves, to really just be our own observer. We're so used to people observing us and judging us because that's the way the human condition has been trained to be, and we've always got to have an opinion about everything. That's another thing that really came to me that I really want to assist us all in clearing out. If you've noticed on Facebook, when people share things, especially with the election stuff, it's really it puts us in a really deep predicament because as we observe, and I bring this up on purpose because the elections in the United States are coming up, and they do affect us. They affect, our financial world. They affect our education, our life, the way life is in this particular country, but also around the world. And everyone's got an opinion on what they think Trump does or doesn't do, or Kamala Harris does or doesn't do, or has done, or whatever. But not only them, but this observation goes to everyone that's in the Congress, House of Representatives, the Senate, the judicial. There's so many facets to our political system, and it's not just our country, it's around the world. And so all of these things are literally, that's also on the earth that's being shaken by the cosmos and being broken apart. And the hardest part, I think, for most of us to understand is that that's a good old boy network, and it's been set up for centuries that way. And if you don't play ball with the people that are in power, you don't play. And I'm not going to go deeply into a political thing here. For best results, I think, with our election series, and again, not just our politicians, but leaders around the world. What I hope to do with this meditation tonight is really go in and hold a crystal clear image of a shift where we receive the deepest grace of God in allowing a continuation of what I would, I guess, articulate would be a disintegration of the old system that holds all of this stuff together, and hopefully have something where we might have something where new candidates could emerge, all around the world, people that are balanced leaders, that are deeply immersed in their hearts, that are really playing out and perceiving with the all that is, Mother, Father, God, however you perceive that, and whatever country. If somebody listens to this from, India, if you have Buddhists, no matter what the religious belief system is of anybody that were to hear this message, I would hope that that we can go beyond all the religious stuff, and also the conditioned belief systems of what we have been told is important and not important. Because we really have to take, especially the political structure, back to its core, back to the foundation, and rip it apart to rebuild something that is sustainable for humanity long term, and where it's not something that just makes people at the top rich. And that means changing all the systems. And again, this is Pluto and Capricorn as systems. It's all the structures that we're built on. And that's really why I think that we're going to be taken to the core of this election. Someone had actually mentioned in one of the astrology things that Sylvia Brown, I don't know if you're familiar with her, but she was a psychic that I think she passed away about 2013. I'd actually bought several of the books. I didn't read them all, but some of them were pretty good. Overall, she had a pretty decent sense of, what was happening. But there toward the end, she was charging like $700 for a session for like 15 or 20 minutes. And I was like, seriously? And she really was not. She was missing the point, like when she was assisting people, like finding lost kids or different humans, and I don't know. She had gone away. What I felt like was from her highest divine capacity, and she had got sucked into the vortex of the material world, and it's tricky. We did come here to be abundant. We came here to be happy and healthy and all these things. And depending on who you read, a lot of people, say, "Oh, it's all just love and light. You're going to create this, create the abundance," but there's no depth. There's still places in every single person's soul where we're cleaning and clearing out some residue that we brought forth with us. And I really feel as long as we're here and breathing in 3D, there's still work to do. And I really think, though, that we're at a place where we can change the external world when we sit in pure presence and stillness, and we envision the falling apart of the old structure, but also envision the new. We may not know what the new looks like, but imagine that we are that powerful of creators. And the caveat with that, of course, is as we are envisioning this, as we're imagining what a new world could look like with a system changeover where you can have leaders that aren't serving big business, and they're not serving money, and they're not serving some demonic possession stuff, which a lot of them do. And it gets really complex. Jude and I have gone deeply into. She went deeply into it, and she shared some with me, and I've read a lot from other people. But people don't understand the complexity of the dark and how it is intermingled into the collective human expression. And I'm not going to go into any of the dark stuff because that's really not our goal here. We're really in a place to envision pristine awareness, and the dark really is not our business anymore. We didn't come here to. We did come here to clean and clear to the point that we can for our own soul and those around us. But if we stay in that space, we're not allowing for the miraculous to come forth, and that's really what this eclipse window is. So imagine if your soul could invite the highest creative capacity for your mind, for your conception. And that's really what we're doing in this window. So let's say that Spirit's working with us, and there's someplace we're stuck, a job. It could be things in your material world, in your house. Maybe you need to clean your house out and do some feng shui. I'm the poster child on that right now, clearing out stuff that doesn't hold any energy anymore, or the energy that it holds is stuck in the past. And it's a challenging thing to do. I mean, I'll tell you right now, it has not been an easy process. And so I'm really using this eclipse window for myself to really lighten my external world as far as, you know, what's around me in the material world. Because when we do make space for that, for the new to come in, you know, the unseen world really sees that we are participating in our own involvement, or, you know, for the evolution of our soul with wanting the new. And so if we're in a symbiotic relationship with that, and we're participating, then we're really opening up the space and the frequency to allow the new to come in with ourselves. And I can't really clarify that enough for us. That's really what this window is. And tonight, in about an hour, you know, when we go into meditation, we're going to open up for all of this. And so it's going to be a place where we just want to stay in the highest pristine potentiality as we can possibly be in. And so, but also as we're envisioning what the new structures could look like, we need to keep it really loose, because as we're here in this human expression, we still have places where we've got the old ideology, the old programs still overlaid in different aspects of us. It's in the cellular structures, it's in the memory banks of the cells, and that's what we're going to continue to clear out, because we don't want to project a lower potentiality on what we're creating if presence can bring in something higher. And this is where it really is a let go and let God. And if we can just jump in the ocean, I mean, just imagine jumping off a cliff in the Pacific Ocean and floating, except not even in the ocean. Imagine we're just putting ourselves in the cosmos, and we're just floating in space. And we're asking Spirit to work with us and say, what? It was Jude always used to say, one of her biggest prayers to Spirit was, what? What? Just tell me what. And so, and you'd be surprised how many times, many of you probably done this, some days when you feel like you're just at the end of your rope with something, and you just say, what? That's all you have to do, just what? But also be really open and receptive to receive something that you might not have ever dreamed possible before, as far as an idea, a concept. Maybe there's still places within you that you've not allowed Spirit to awaken your gifts. I really think that that's one of the biggest things that we're going to do tonight, is open up space for Spirit to really come in and activate the deepest parts of our soul expression that will allow us to participate in the highest capacity with creating our new futures. And so, as each of you contemplate, or whoever listens to this call later, of course it's always perfect if anyone finds this call 5 years from now, they're where they're at on the soul evolution. And again, there's no better than or less than. And just because we're doing this call tonight doesn't mean we've arrived at a certain place. There's never an arrival. It's a constant becoming. And of course, that's one of the paradoxes, I think, of awakening to the different extents that we do. But imagine that, and I've talked about this before, imagine the morphogenetic field, and this is true, is completely breaking apart on every single level of presence. Imagine that the adamantine particles that hold us together individually, collectively, the group structures, the belief systems, all of the God energy that we have amassed throughout the whole time-space continuum, imagine that that is all being disintegrated. Even the word disintegrated kind of is a bit too rigidified. Imagine that everything that holds us together went into liquefaction. So it just merged and flowed. And even that kind of gives an idea that there would be more structure, because water has a mass and density to it. So go even beyond that. Imagine that our atmosphere, everything that holds the atmosphere together on that nanoparticle layer, imagine that's all disintegrating to allow for a new creation to come forward. That's really mind-boggling, isn't it? It's funny, as I sit here and Spirit just kind of directs this and puts words in my mouth. I'm like, I just look and say, where'd that come from? And I'm like, oh, but no, that really feels, I mean, it's a place where most humans don't have any frame of reference for, because we're not taught that in school. We're not taught anything about the quantum world. I mean, you do have scientists, kids that go into are in studying quantum theory and things like that, but to really perceive it and to allow such a falling away of the old that we can stay in such a space to allow that precipitation of the new formulation. I've said that before, the precipitation. Spirit is constantly talking to me about the moment of precipitation before a new creation. And that's a really powerful place to be in this eclipse time. This is it's a complete window, it's a complete reset, it's a complete nothing point. It's a 0 point. So imagine that whatever problems that you have or you perceive that you have, and of course even that's just something we project onto ourselves. There are no problems. Not really. And if your mind sits and says, but what? Release the concept that you have a problem. That one's really hard for a lot of people. But what if that's what's required right now? What if it is literally a window in which that we're supposed to allow any remnants of the distorted thought forms and patterns to just fall away? That really is what we're called to do. And so imagine that we're doing that for ourselves, but also as you hold that pristine awareness, as we all do that in this call, imagine that we also hold such a pristine feeling of that it reverberates out through the world, and also through the political structures, through the financial structures, through the educational structures, everything about all forms of society, and not just this country, but around the world. And you may think, oh my God, that's such a daunting thought. Don't let it be daunting. What if you are that powerful? What if we are all that powerful? We have 14 people on the call now. So that's one more than the 13th. I guess there's one of me and 13 of you guys. So what does that look like? 13's the Christ. What if a specific number of people get together and it's always perfect? So on that note, I'll go ahead and invite us to go into the deep meditation. State of being. We'll just call it state of being. Forgive me, my sinuses are kind of activated because of the mowing today. I'm all stopped up, but I'll ask that this energy can clear that out too. So, no matter where you are, whenever you're listening to this call, just get still and find a quiet place in your home if you have other people, if you have kids, if you have other family members. Really make yourself a priority. That's one thing that so many people have been trained away from, is making themselves a priority. And it's where you don't do anything. You literally allow yourself to collapse in complete totality. Because there's nothing to do. There's no one to go see. There's nothing that needs to be done in this particular moment of time. In this particular moment on this call, the only necessity is to allow yourself to luxuriate and fall so completely and deeply in presence with Mother, Father, God, with the all that is, with however you articulate that. Some of you may have noticed that because we've been doing this on a more regular arrangement every 2 weeks with the moon cycles, I think many of you are finding that you can go into a deep theta state much faster than you used to. And again, that's because there's been such an acceleration of, how shall we say, molecular spin. The adamanton particles have been activated so deeply with all of these solar flares and all of the energy that has been coming forth from our sun, the great central sun, and the great central sun, and so on and so forth. And it wasn't long ago that we were really aligned deeply with the Milky Way, which is the center of our galaxy. And when that happened, anyone that was deeply immersed in their hearts were in a space to receive cosmic love and light to the extent that it would activate and assist in an exponentially fast and deep clearing, which lets us stay in a place where we're more heart-centered all the time, where we don't really allow ourselves to go into all the minutiae that's happening, all of the traumas and the dramas, and get caught up in all the media. It's one thing to turn the news on to see what the projections are, but don't do it if it's to the extent where it's going to destroy your emotional and mental, health and capacity. We have to learn to not take on any of that. What we're creating is something much, much more vast in a frequency, but also in just the highest human expression. What if so many people on the planet are not happy with political leaders? How many times do we remember in the past where so many people would come up and offer themselves up to offer service to the community, and now, in such a particular moment of time, such a powerful moment when the United States in particular needs a good leader, and yet if you go and you listen to people and what they say, they can't stand either leader that's there. They really can't, in the heart of hearts, go behind one of them. Where are all the people that used to apply and run for these jobs? Why are we only offered 2 potentials? What if we are so powerful that we just stay in our hearts and we ask that the highest capacity of the collective consciousness brings forth new leadership, balanced leadership, people that want to lead, people that want to assist humanity in moving forward, and yet they're no longer subservient to the old structures that have held us all in place for so long. Oh, that's what I was going to say about Sylvia Browne a while ago. They mentioned that in her book back in 2013, one of her predictions was that the United States would not have an election in 2020. That's what she predicted. Whatever it was going to be different. It was going to be radically different. What if that's a true prediction? I won't go deeply into that, but what if we could shift our reality as a collective people? We don't know what we want, but we know what we don't want anymore. We know that we don't want a polarized political structure. We know that we don't want a reality where our brothers and sisters that are in our communities are split over ideology. What if we, just through pristine awareness and deep meditation, can send out deep healing love to every man, woman, and child on the planet for the intent that we can all release outdated ideology, outdated ideas, projections, things that have been projected onto us, thoughts, belief systems about what we think that life should be like, because it's all a dream. None of this exists, not really. Everything exists because everyone as a group continues to believe in whatever it is that exists. What if we could shift everyone's belief system to a place where everyone felt like they were magical and had the capacity to contribute to the whole? It's really what we're turning back into, is back into smaller communities. The communities can still share ideas and concepts and all sorts of things with each other, but we don't have to be in a place where we fall under a new world order. Can you imagine the vast depth of freedom, pure freedom, that you would feel if you were no longer controlled and manipulated by a political structure, by a financial system that constantly takes from you and manipulates you, by religious institutions that hijack your very core, your core relationship with Mother, Father, God, the all that is. What if any listener to this recording hears it and says, I'm going to take my power back? That's really what we come here to do as souls, and in all of our lifetimes, is taking our power. But taking our power is not in the same sense of what we're taught in society. It is not power over anything or anyone else. It is such a deep empowerment at the very core of who we are that it doesn't matter what's happening in the outer world of form. We are always in pure joy. We don't have to like what's happening in the external world, but we also stay in a place of transcendence. We're invited, no matter who you are, what country you're from, do not get caught up in political machinations that's happening. All it is a projection. It's a dog and pony show. It's no different from a Miss America contest. Contestants, think of political leaders as contestants that are offered up, and they're made up. They fix their hair and they put lipstick on and makeup and put a certain suit on them to make them look like something that would be presentable, something that someone could trust. And yet all that trust is gone because all of the actions don't really do us a service any longer. What if we can, just in this deep meditation, shift this reality? What if we're shifting timelines? And it's not just us, it's people all around the world doing these type of meditations, small meditation groups. That's the power of the people. The only reason systems can continue to exist is because we continue to feed them. What if we start making small choices for ourselves, taking our freedom back, taking our power back? It's one of the most empowering things you can do. And yet it's one of the most difficult things to change habituated, patterned purchasing. It's why the whole advertising industry was created. It was basically created to project out into the world through any media and tell you what you really want to do. All advertising was created by companies. Buy this product, buy this service, buy this, buy that. Oh, you need this. When you really look at it, they create jingles, and the jingle gets in your head, and you can't get it out of your head. It's predatory. It's highly manipulative. It really is one of the ways that popular culture took over the music industry and television and movies. They project out into the field what they want the observer to experience as a reality. What if you just stop? What if you stop consuming it and stop watching? Do you understand how that is taking your power back? It's such a subtle thing in perception, and yet it's absolutely necessary within this particular auspicious time. Assume that this eclipse window, which is opening, it'll be exact in about 40 more minutes. That magical 2-week window where you could be Dorothy and Oz. You click your heels together and you create a wonderful new reality for yourself. Not just in your own personal life, but for everything in the external world around you. If you're still deeply immersed in pain and suffering, no matter what form it takes, if it's any kind of disease pattern that you're still in relationship with, let's go in and ask really deeply with Mother Father God that be brought to a close. So let's say that we're in this very wide open heart space to receive the miraculous. Let us all call in Mother, Father, God. Let us call in the entire archangelic kingdom throughout infinite presence. Let us call in every ascended master throughout infinite presence. Let us call in the 7 mighty Elohim, builders of form in this world, through infinite presence. Let us call in the entire elemental kingdoms that build everything here in this world of form. Let us call in Saint Germain of the Violet Flame to transmute any and all last remnants of our old world and how we perceive ourselves, so that we can be taken into the highest capacity of our human expression. Transmuting energies not just within us, but with any other entanglement that we find ourselves in, with other people, places, things, ideas. Just imagine the violet flame activating within your heart center and lighting up the entire chakra system. Feel that burn away and release so much density that you've been holding on for eons of time. Feel the phenomena all the way at the core cellular level, all that electrical energy that gets activated. Imagine the diamond Christ light coming in from the great central sun and the great central sun and so on and so forth in the Milky Way. And it's lighting up every single nanoparticle of our molecular and the atomic and subatomic structures. Feel that healing come at the deepest core of your being. And imagine the radiation of the 12th golden ray just activating the highest capacities of who you've ever been in throughout the time-space continuum. Sit within yourself in this meditation and really track the vibratory rate, the molecular spin of your cells. And know in your heart that this is between you and Mother, Father, God. This is not something that I, as an individual, are doing for you or to you. I'm being guided by Spirit to take us into this really deep healing frequency of energy. Because it's what Judith had done with me. Everything has a divine timing and purpose. And when you read the astrology, for the ones of you that do read that, you'll find that a couple of them talk about these particular eclipses can go back to the eclipse cycles of October of 2005. For those that are in New Orleans and Louisiana and the whole Gulf Coast that went through Hurricane Katrina, we're talking about 18 years ago, or 19 actually. And it really ends up being a perfect come forth of what we went through being in New Orleans and on the Gulf Coast at Katrina. This particular eclipse series goes directly back to that. We're doing a final healing individually and collectively within New Orleans and the whole Gulf Coast of the United States from Katrina. But there's also an 18-year cycle that they say is also closing down, which is literally when I met Judith, probably to the exact weekend, I'm not sure. It was somewhere in September, October when I met her in 2006. It's so amazing how these cycles of time all seem to fit perfectly within what's happening in our lives. How interesting that that's when I began my journey with Judith. And yet here I find myself doing phone meditation calls with the moon cycles, continuing what she had been taught to do with spirit for decades. And this is probably why Judith came to me quite a bit in the last week or two, just as presence. It's so interesting to hear something like a chime or something that comes up in our lives, a bell, something that activates and delineates time. Someone had recently written something about bells, and I don't know how many of you, if you're older, you'll probably know that there used to be bells. Schoolhouses had bells, cities had bells for their centers, to gather people together. There was a significance with bells, and there was a frequency that went with bells. And isn't it interesting? This individual had made a notation that bells have just totally disappeared, or at least in this country. They still operate in and around Europe, and probably other places around the world, but you don't hear of bells anymore. Everything in the United States has gone to electronic expression. It's a simulation of the real frequency. And what's happening when a bell strikes or is struck with someone? It's actually a metal, I guess, in all cases. And you have another piece of metal strike the metal, and there's a frequency that goes out from the bell. If you've ever been next to a bell and you strike it, you can feel a vibratory wave energy come from the bell. And of course, the larger the bell, the greater that frequency is. So imagine what was happening every time a bell was tolled, wherever it was. And that frequency would go out into the field. They talk of energy healing now being a frequential thing. They turn certain frequencies on, many of them electronically, but many also from natural sources to do sound healing with people. But again, it depends on the frequency that you're tuning to. Spirit brings this up from a couple of different angles. One, a bell is usually a notification, but actual music, if you go back and listen to classical music was written in a time period when you had much going on in the Renaissance of humanity. That's why they call it the Renaissance period. So much of that went away. And if you look at the music that's out in your world now, and you feel the frequency that's put out, again, everything's a frequency. If you're listening to something, you're invited to really go into your heart and ask yourself if that's something you need to hear anymore. It doesn't matter who the person is. It may be someone that has a very high presence in popular culture. They may be a popular person. We're not even going to present names because the names are not important. What is important is the energy. If you are what you eat, you're also what you hear. Again, you are in a place where you're making choices in your lives right now. These are choice points with these eclipses. They're also a perfect time in choosing hard decisions. What is sustaining your soul and what is helping you emerge in your highest expression and what is not. Just as you choose what you're eating and consuming with food and drink, please also pay the same amount of attention to what you're hearing or seeing on television and movies and things like that. Everything's a frequency. If you're listening to lyrics and messages that are created in lower form, if they're creating a victim consciousness, what is that doing to you when you hear it? With your newfound freedom, you're also being given the freedom to make better choices. You no longer have to stay in a habituated pattern. Just because you've listened to certain music for several decades doesn't mean you have to continue it. They say that music is healing, and indeed it is healing. If you go to old Indian tribes or indigenous peoples or people that used to know how to make instruments that could go in and shift someone on a frequency level, that music is healing. If you go and listen to a heavy rock band or a really dark rap group, or it doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter the genre. It could be country music. Even though it's a familiar lyric, if the lyric is coming from a lower place of frequency and creation, this is just one example of how we have to make better choices within our lives. And we don't think that those things have power over us, and yet they do. It's subtle power. And yet it also keeps us in habituated victim mode. You no longer want to be in a victim mode. So even though music can be a healing modality on the planet for assisting us, it can also keep us in lower, sickening creations. It can keep a perpetuating false reality. You don't want to be the best of 3D, as Judith would say. We're being asked to take that much pristine clarity within our thought processes, but also within our hearts. Can you step into that depth of an awareness for every single thing you do? To take full and total responsibility for your perception of reality based on the choices that you've made. Do you feel the shift within yourselves as words like that are spoken? Can you feel in the very core of your being where you want to give up listening to certain things anymore, or participating in certain activities, or being in relationship with certain individuals that do not have any interest in self-observation and self-work? People that have no interest in their own soul evolution because they're stuck in such a lostness. We're at a point where you can no longer prop anything or anyone else up. You have to attend yourself to the highest capacity that you can. And that indeed is a tricky thing to do. How can you be there for others and be in service to the external world and yet also maintain the highest frequency of expression for yourself without taking on a disease pattern from someone else? It really is one of the things that are being asked, that's being asked of humans to look at, is how do you attend your aging parents and your aging community? It could just be family or friends or just people in your community that are aging. And don't come from a place of guilt when you're making a decision and choosing to attend someone else. But know that you attend to the point where you're giving joy. You can stay in joy for yourself, but you're also in joy for the other soul. If you're getting to a place, though, where you're burned out and there's no more joy, then you really are in a place where you need to ask yourself if that's what you need to continue creating. We did not come here to be in pain and misery and suffering. So many of those things can be projected onto us. If you've got a really strong constitution, you may tolerate a lot more behaviors than you would have. And yet, in the core of yourself, you will feel depleted when you give away your power to other people. There's a subtle distinction there between what's yours and what's not yours. How can you assist the other and not give away all your power to the other, and even your health? This is always true. Even mothers taking care of children. I've actually had a lot of yawning today. Judith would say when she used to go in and do sessions with people, it was just the exhaust of going in and doing the transmutation work. That's what this feels like, is that we're giving up so much density as a collective group that it can feel exhausting. And on the other side of the exhaustion, there's such a deep joy and such a bliss and a clarity that comes forth. So we've done this in meditations before, but let's really, because of this eclipse window, let's go in and really envision on the deepest levels of participating in clearing. Place a conscious intent that you're going to go in and clear all the different systems and layers and levels within the physical body. We're already in this high vibrational state. Imagine that this unlimited amount of adamantine particles that are coming in as pure presence from the cosmos, from the very core of who we are, from the great central sun and so on and so forth. Imagine presence emanating from the very core of your being, the very center of who you are. From the pelvic bowl, imagine all of that energy just pulsing out from your whole skeletal system. The core structure, the bones, the bones is the structure in which your physical body can walk around and actually function here on the planet. Within the bones, there's so many memories carried forth. Feel this pristine energy coming and literally purifying your bones on the deepest core level. Imagine all the energy going in through the musculature system. That whole system that's actually moving your bones, that works with your brain and the core of who you are that wants to accomplish something in the physical. Imagine that any pain held within your muscles, the tendons, all those tissues, the myofascial tissues, that's what carries the emotional body. And it's where any unprocessed emotions linger within the physical. It's part of where you put your pain body. Imagine that all of that is taken back to 0 point. Imagine that infinite presence in the adamantine particles deeply immersing itself in all of your organs. Imagine all of this cosmic, Christic energy coming in, and it's going through the circulatory system. That system that handles all of your blood, pumping in through the heart, through the organs, through all the soft tissues. Perhaps you're feeling really spacey right now. It's because of the dissolution of your perception of your physicality. Allow all of this high frequency energy, all the adamantine particles, to just permeate the whole outer part of who you are, with the skin, the outer skin. Feel how much lighter the skin feels. Now allow all of this presence into your brain. Ask that Spirit can assist in releasing any old thought forms and belief systems that are no longer important for your soul evolution. You may feel like you're getting a whole lobotomy. What if you could take the filing cabinet of your brain and open every drawer of every place you've ever stored a memory? Not just in this lifetime, but every single lifetime. What if you could take all of those false memories out and just have a big, beautiful space in which to create new, loving memories? What if the memories that are here never existed in the first place? What if they're only there because we insisted that they were created? What if life is just an illusion? What if you're feeling so light that you're able to just place your awareness all the way out through the cosmos? Do you feel how infinite you really are? We're cultivating that awareness. We're just remembering the totality of who we are. As you're sitting deep in this cosmic awareness, the timing is always perfect. We're approaching that exact totality of time for this particular beginning eclipse. How is it that each person in this particular moment, when the call is being recorded, has chosen to be present just in pure silence and attend such a huge celestial event with the Earth and the Moon cycle? A huge full moon partial lunar eclipse. Something that can affect the human expression on very deep and core levels according to astrology. And yet so many people are just oblivious. They're in their own world, attending whatever it is that they do. Do you feel how much lighter that your mind feels? You've released so much of the memory within your brain, within the filing cabinet, the storage, what you perceive that you need or don't need. And now perceive how vast your heart feels. This is your heart sitting with the cosmos. It's sitting with the collective human soul. This is the core of who you are, taking your power. You're sitting in your power. And as a powerful creator in this particular eclipse passage that's approaching, hold a very open intent that Mother, Father, God, and the entire company of heaven will assist all of us in humanity in bringing forth real, true, lasting and sustainable change regarding our leaders, people that are put forth even as a presentation. Let us humbly request for the highest capacity of shift according to our individual and collective soul contracts. Also our country contracts, depending on what we need to clear out. Even with the Pluto return of the United States, we can certainly ask for the highest potentiality of grace with regards to all of our souls and humanity. What if we are that powerful? The potency of this eclipse is now exact within this particular recorded call. You may be so deeply into this guided meditation that you can barely function. You may be so deeply immersed in the outer field allow yourself to really take ownership of this new place you find yourself in. This pure, pristine awareness. It's yours. It doesn't have to go away. I don't know about you, but I think that this is probably the deepest healing that we've ever gone through in this group call. The frequency of this cosmic love and light is so vast. And yet it's so perfect for this particular point of time. you able to track the zeroing out of your cellular structures, a reformulation to the very core of your being, which will allow you to go into new, sustainable, heartfelt creations? Can you feel the palpable difference between when we went into this meditation call in this particular moment of time? For each of you, it will be a different experience in the way you process it and the way you perceive it. For the next 2 weeks during this eclipse window, you're invited to stay as heart-centered as you possibly can. You're also invited to attend yourself as much as possible and don't necessarily isolate yourself. However, do make yourself a priority. Allow the trauma and drama of the world to just happen around you. It's just not your business. Obviously, if you have family or grandchildren or people you're attending, then do. I mean, as long as you're attending from the deepest capacity of love, then that's what you should attend. For anything else, you're allowing for a complete disintegration to fall apart. So envision that you've undergone a healing like you've never dreamed possible. That within these next 2 weeks, within this eclipse window, that Spirit will bring you into your highest healthy capacities. This will permeate throughout your entire life. Every single relationship that you're in, every thought, every action, everything that you are as human expression will change from this moment forward. Do you feel how powerful that is? What if every man, woman, and child on the planet, all 8 billion souls, could shift during this eclipse passage? And guess what? They are going to shift. But that's what we're doing anyway. Again, change is inevitable. It just depends on how deep each soul has done the evolutionary work. The wonderful thing is you don't have to worry about anyone else's passage but your own. Stay as heart-centered as you possibly can and stay in union and communion with this vast frequency of cosmic love and light. Allow it to continue to inform you on a deep cellular level, but through the heart. There are no rules to this. There's no better than or less than. Your journey is unique to you. You can observe the world around you, but don't get caught up in the minutiae of any of it. It matters not what any of your family and friends are doing. It only matters what you are doing and your response. If you're responding from your heart, and you can respond to the extent that you have something to give from just pure cosmic awareness. It is no longer our place to fix anything or anyone else on the planet. It's going to take amazing, immense courage to let things fall apart. If someone's life in your sphere of awareness is falling apart, what happens if you let it fall apart? What happens if you let them just collapse and disintegrate? What happens if they get to come back from the ashes How many times have we each come back from different ashes as a phoenix in our own lives, when we've allowed poor choices or decisions to take us into places to get that soul growth and that lesson? Please allow the courtesy of each of your loved ones in your life, family, friends, business associates, and everyone. Allow every single soul to go through the hero's journey. What if we're doing a disservice to people when we don't allow them to take their power? Every single one of us have to become our own hero. Even the ones playing out these deep, distorted parts within the political systems around the world, allow for a complete disintegration of all of it. There's no more propping up anyone. There's no more fixing anything. And you can be fine, and you are still whole. It does not matter what happens in the external world. Your world is being created internally. You are that powerful. We still have 11 attendees. That's a master number. 11 is new beginnings. It's always perfect, any and all attendance that we have. And each one of you in this particular moment of time have been here by choice, through soul choice, to be part of the activating of the frequency within this particular call, so that when others call into it, they will be able to receive the same depth of healing that you are receiving in this particular point of time. And again, the energies on here are timeless. It does not matter when someone re-listens to the call. You can re-listen to the call as many times as you want, and it will continually take you deeper into your own heart and clear out to the extent that your soul needs to clear each time you listen to it. And no matter what someone is doing, know that they are getting exactly the experience that their soul needs to in this moment of time. I so appreciate all of you taking the time to come and join us today, so that we could go through this clearing energy together and create the energy on this particular call for anyone who listens to it. Again, do stay hyper vigilant for yourselves. Don't stay in a place of fear or limitation within this eclipse window. But know the next 2 weeks are going to take you into soul choice points, where every nanosecond you're making a decision. Most humans have no idea how many decisions that they consciously or unconsciously make during a day. Again, it's a very potent and important time for each of us individually and collectively. What do you want to create? Do be self-full, not selfish, but self-full. Make yourself a priority. Anything that happens to you through circumstances, try not to attach to any of it. If people, places, things fall away, allow them to go. They're no longer meant for you. Whatever comes in, sit with it. See how it feels. If it doesn't feel right, then don't keep it. Just because we're in the eclipse window doesn't mean that everything's going to come in is going to be meant for you. Some things will be coming to test your soul, to test your resolve. It will be to test your intuition so that you will be able to really gauge whether or not you're deeply immersed in your heart, to know whether or not something belongs with you or does not. I dare say by the end of these 2 weeks, we'll be in a whole different place. By the end of the year, we won't recognize the world. And yet that's always the case every nanosecond. There's that much change. Just stay in an open heart and allow your higher mind to continually merge with your heart for your highest creations. Thank you again so much. Infinite love and many blessings to all of you. Stay in this space as long as you can. At some point, the call will dissolve and go away. Much healing to all of you.